Vestibule of Heck podcast, episode 16. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Mitchell.
Mitchell, it's been a month.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Since we've said, hey, new year, new heck.
New year, well, actually the title was, I think, New Year's same heck. So, really, we've been faithful.
It's par for the course at this point.
Yeah.
But, how have you been?
I've been okay. I've been busy trying to save up some money.
'Tis the season.
Yeah. I mean, is it?
I don't know. You can say
money
that.
Saving season?
What I've learned is that when I have nothing to say, if I just say like some kind of like colloquialism or like a phrase,
platitudes are great.
Yeah. It just they work because it's just like, oh yeah, and someone describes their own meaning to it.
Yeah.
You know, like 'tis the season. You can be like, oh yeah, this happens to me every.
That is
February.
My interactions with customers as a delivery person. My interactions with customers are like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, maybe a minute tops.
Yeah.
So like. All I use are platitudes.
It's like, that's how it goes.
Yeah,
like, story of my life.
Oh, yeah, just same old shit, funny,
I really like that we've evolved enough in our use of language where we can say things that are completely meaningless. I mean,
fundamentally meaningless.
But they are, like, they have inherent meaning because you're basically informing someone, like, I don't really want to talk to you.
It's like
that's how it goes. The way she goes, boys.
It's like a lingual meme.
It's a linguistic meme.
I'm just going to go shoot myself in the head for saying that. I'll be right back.
Well, hang on. If you're going to shoot yourself in the head, Mitchell.
Yeah.
What are the chances that I can have your body?
Well, A, why would you want it? But B, evidently growing. Growing every day are the chances that you could take my body. Phrasing.
Phrasing. But yes.
But yeah. Moving on.
We have to go. The podcast is over. So you were telling me about something before we started recording, and we are finally hitting a point where we have destroyed truth, and now we are trying to destroy humanity. And that is an unbiased look at what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so I've been following a story for about 2 or 3 years. I don't know exactly, because I haven't been following it that closely, because nothing's happened.
Sure, like you don't write down every time you read about it.
Yeah.
So
it's there's a man, an Italian surgeon, neurosurgeon.
Sergio is his name.
Yeah. And he proposes that he can transplant the head of a fully paralyzed person onto the body of a brain-dead person. So, thus, you take one guy who's already essentially dead, and you use that life to make another person who's not dead make their life better.
Right, and so if you're like a paraplegic or a quadriplegic probably more accurately, if you're like quadriplegic and you're paralyzed, you can have your head put on a new body.
A fully functioning new body.
Now, I'm scared because I don't remember what the movie is, and I think it was in the 90s or early 2000s. It might be in early 2000s. I can't remember what the name of the movie is, but someone gets like a murderer's hand grafted on them. It could have been earlier.
I think there was a...
But then they were a murderer.
I feel like there was like a Goosebumps episode like that or something.
Oh, there might have been.
Some weird... Oh, you know what this was in? That was in... It was in Unwind, a book by Neil Shusterman.
Oh, yeah.
I highly recommend it. It's a sort of a young adult novel, but it's very well written.
Yeah, as a certified book asshole, it's pretty decent.
You got a rectangle in there.
I do. I have a whole rectangle that I can tell people how their opinions are bad.
So yeah, in that book, a guy gets. The book allows essentially for people to be unwound and their parts to be distributed to people. So this one random guy gets the arm of a murderer, and the arm demands blood.
It's like it's like Armathy from
Rick and Morty.
Richard
I
and Mortimer.
was just gonna say a more contemporary universal.
There's not enough time to talk about how much I used to like Rick and Morty. There's not enough time on the planet. But tell me more.
Yeah,
about Head Boy.
The concern here,
our new Head Boy,
Sergio, our buddy Sergio, has been kicked out of pretty much every reasonable country for his absolute lunacy. Because the concerns around this surgery are that the person that receives the new body could just go fully insane. Because their head is just attached to somebody, and we've never had this happen. We have no idea. Hard to predict.
Which is crazy because, I mean, stuff like this happens in medicine all the time. It's just never this dramatic, right? It's like a new cancer treatment comes out, and it's like, okay, cool. Or something to help mend broken bones comes out, like, okay, cool. But then you have you ever seen that cast? It's like it looks like a fence, like a chain link fence to cast, and it's semi-flexible, and it's not nearly as rigid, and it's breathable.
Yeah.
And it is as structurally sound as a real cast.
That's pretty cool.
But nobody batted an eye when that happened.
Well,
why is that?
I would imagine because that's probably not gonna maybe make a horrible Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, what are we gonna do about Big Cast? Big Cast has this under their thumb for years.
What are you gonna do about big head transplant?
I remember. A quick aside. Remember when I broke my foot in? I think it was high school.
Yeah.
I broke my foot, and
jumping into a
pool.
water.
All right, hang on. I am justified. So this
Jumped into a pool full of water.
This is the whole story. So I was out by the pool, and we're jumping in. And there's a bunch of us. It was like my brother and I think his girlfriend at the time, and her younger brother, and we're all jumping in, being crazy, and. As a kid, I, of course, wanted to be the craziest and the best at hurting myself.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right, and so
Jackass was big.
Oh, Jackass!
That was peak Jackass. That was like after Jackass 1 and like Jackass 2 was just coming out.
I remember seeing Jackass 2 and 3 in theaters, and it was glorious.
A tour de force of film.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, I want to see how many times I can rotate, how many times I can spin before I hit the water.
Yeah.
So I jumped as high as I could vertically. I didn't go horizontally enough, right? And so I'm going. And for anyone who doesn't know, typically pools will have a slope down, so the walls will go down.
They taper
then it'll
a bit.
slope, and then you'll have the bottom. So it's more like a pixelated U shape, with no soft edges. And so I spun, and I was really close, and I cleared the side of the pool by maybe half a foot.
Fortunately.
Unfortunately, I kept spinning, and I was just tall enough to where I was still pretty much going full speed falling, and the water there was not enough resistance in the water to stop me, and my foot crumpled.
Yeah.
If you imagine taking a burrito and folding it, that's what my foot did.
Even an in-ground pool like you had was only maybe, 10 feet deep at
10,
the most?
I think it's 10 foot. Yeah,
and so the taper is maybe 5 feet down.
It was probably at 5 feet. Yeah.
So your head's still probably sticking out of the water as you smash your foot on the ground.
I went underwater screaming. I was like, blah, 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 and I came back out.
Yeah.
But I had a cast, and it was the worst summer of my life. I had to because I love swimming, and anytime I had to go into the water, I had to put on this. My dad called it my leg condom, and it was this big rubber thing I had to pull over my leg, and then I had to pump air out of it to make sure it's sealed.
Yeah.
That is not a concern with the new cast.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Big Cast has us under their thumb.
But
they're the people's champion.
This head transplant maniac. He's actually performed this successfully on a dog.
I feel like the second you're fucking swapping heads on dogs, you should be thrown into like an international
lunatic.
prison.
Yeah, I mean, I'm calling him a
Gulag.
lunatic. I feel like I'm, as much as I want to see this happen, like put that out there, like let this happen. Somebody, please, some irreputable, horrible person, let this happen.
Right, China.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's where he is.
Yeah.
He went to China, and they're apparently as of November of 2017, they were endorsing and helping him to schedule this. So, but there's a lot of fears, right? Ethical and logistical. It's like a 24-plus hour surgery just to do it, and then there's dozens, a quote from Sergio, dozens of follow-up surgeries and different specialists. So
not only is this probably going to be a wildly expensive and
$100
long
million
procedure,
was the estimate.
$100 million?
$100 million.
What kind of... Okay, so...
But of course, that's the first one, right? The first, heart transplant probably cost a ludicrous amount of money, right?
That's a fair way to put it. I mean, hopefully, wherever he develops this will be a more directly capitalistic system where we can improve it.
In the perfect timeline, where this happens and just becomes mainstream because it works so well, it'll go down in price because people will learn how to do it, perfect the technique.
They'll do it right, because there's no way that he's doing it as optimally as it can be done, right?
Because he's the first one to ever do it.
Yeah, and he's the creator, not the innovator.
Yeah, and he's also,
It's like how the Japanese used to be with electronics. The Americans made TVs, and then the Japanese made them perfect.
So, but then the other thing, to consider about why he won't be doing it perfectly is he's having a hard time doing it at all. Getting permission and help and other doctors, which, makes sense. But it also means that the product results will maybe be inferior. Basically, I want this to happen, but also I would feel really bad for the volunteer if something should go wrong, because he better have a clause that says, if I say to kill me, you kill me. Because if science and this lunatic are to be believed in history, they'll keep him alive forever just to see what fucking happens.
And as we all know, this is one step closer to the Avatar universe that we want. If you remember, in Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar, if you're forgetting, they put the main character,
Jake Sully.
He was in a wheelchair because he was injured in combat, I think, as a Marine.
Yeah.
And they put him in a Blue Man.
I don't know why Jake Sully is always funny.
Jake Sully. Because it was so forced. That whole movie is forced.
It is.
It's like they took it and they took like a thing. Imagine they took like a steak.
Looking forward to Avatar 2.
They took a steak and they pushed it so hard through a colander, it became like ground beef, but not good.
Looking forward to Avatar 2.
It's going to be... What the hell are they even going to do? Who cares? Maybe they're going to find some unobtainium and find out that it's really not unobtainable. Easy to find.
Well, we actually... I believe we covered this in the Hey Remember what we hope they do. I think.
Probably did. I was...
Because there's a couple of routes they could go that would be cool. But
oh, yeah. They could do some stuff with it.
But of course, they're probably just going to do the humans come back, and this time they're stronger.
But this time they're blue.
A la Independence Day 2.
Is there an Independence Day 2?
Yeah, it came out
that's like
last year, 2 years ago?
What the fuck? Oh.
Yeah.
Is it a direct sequel? I didn't see it.
The aliens come back.
They had Jeff Goldblum in it?
Well, because I think he was in it, but he wasn't the star.
Got Will Smith in it?
I think he was in it, but I think they had some of the old cast, but they weren't, because like it was a passing of the torch to because they're old now. These guys are old.
Well, yeah, but
it's been forever.
The passing of the Independence Day. Who gives a shit about disaster porn movies anymore?
But what the plot was, I never watched the movie. But the plot, because of course I haven't watched the movie. We have a whole series about not watching movies.
You haven't seen Independence Day?
No.
It's okay.
I bet.
It's really okay. My favorite part is when everyone misquotes Will Smith.
Earth?
Yeah, that's super shitty.
I just told my brother
he says,
about that
welcome
the other
to
day.
Earth. Like, he doesn't say, welcome to Earth! Like people say he does. And I'm like, that's kind of fucked up.
It's just like a little bit of like racism there, because like, black guy says Earth.
It's just like, and you know, Will Smith does kind of, he'll get into like,
sometimes
when he'll talk, he does kind of end up like slurring his speech a little bit.
He's a hip-hop guy.
I mean, are we talking about the cleanest album ever come out in rap? What was that big song he did? What was his big...
Parents Just Don't Understand?
No, the other one.
Get Jiggy With It?
Get Jiggy With Na 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 Na.
He also did Welcome to Miami.
Welcome to Miami. Why do I know these songs?
Because he was popular at one time.
Welcome to Miami.
He was like pop hip-hop. Before hip-hop was like allowed to be edgy, because like everyone was afraid of black people.
Yo, have you ever heard of Tech Nine? You ever heard of Immortal Technique?
Yeah, yeah.
You know Dance with the Devil by Immortal Technique? That's so deep. It's so deep, dude. It's his mom the whole time. Can you fucking believe that, dude? I fucking love Immortal Technique.
You're excellent, man.
I hate Immortal Technique. I don't hate Immortal Technique. Immortal Technique's a perfectly fine artist. I hate people. For anyone who doesn't know, Immortal Technique tends to write really story-driven stuff, and it tends to be about darker subject matter. And in one song, the one that every white girl with dreads I've ever seen quotes, and then she shows me her ankle bracelet, and I tell her to fuck off. I've been thinking about getting an ankle bracelet recently, like one of those like hemp ones. I think they're kind of neat. I don't know. I haven't done it, but I've been thinking about it.
I mean, keep thinking.
Yeah, I might have. But anyway, yeah. So putting heads on new bodies, Immortal Technique.
I mean, I was moving on.
Oh my god, it was his mom's head the whole time. I feel like
I was done with that. I was trying to tell you the plot to Independence Day 2.
Oh yeah, right. We're talking about Independence Day.
The aliens come back, but this time, but you go. So the first,
serious.
Well, the first aliens, they were a scouting party, right? So that's why it was small. But then the plot of the second one.
Now they have a bigger budget, more CGI, so they can.
Well, and the humans used the alien technology to make our own technology better. So we got like cool in the movie. We got like cool futuristic like fighter jets and stuff.
Well, because there's a cool part in the first one where Will Smith pilots an alien ship.
Yeah. So they use that sort of information and the stuff collected from salvage make our stuff better. So hopefully, I assume the humans win because it's a movie.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I really want another Independence Day.
No, never. And then it not only that, but it came out again in like 2016 or 2017, and that's way too late.
You know what movie was really good? A new sequel. I see where we're going with it now.
Yeah.
I figured it out. Damn.
Thanks for picking up on that.
Check that out.
Thanks for picking up on the thing you wanted to talk about.
I can't read. We have notes here. I can't read. So last night I watched Jigsaw, which is the newest Saw movie. It's 10 years after the last one.
Yeah, I haven't watched a Saw movie since, I guess, maybe 5 or 6 came out when we were in high school?
Saw 5 came out when we were in high school.
So, yeah, I guess 5 maybe would be the last one I saw.
So, Saw is kind of known for being bad. And I think it kind of gets a bum rap. I don't think it ever tries to be as serious as people think it is.
It's hokey.
Yeah, it's goofy. It's cheesy. It kind of created its own genre of torture porn films.
Yeah, look,
and so
stuff's allowed to be popcorn, you know?
That's what I mean. Yeah, it has value in itself. But the new one, now granted, grain of salt, I wasn't sober when I watched it.
I mean,
at all.
Rarely ever.
Right. I mean, that's how I watch movies. That's how we all kind of watch movies, right?
You're either drunk or... I mean, there's a reason...
Or getting drunk with people.
Well, there's a reason that you have places, establishments like the Alamo Draft House and stuff, where they'll serve you alcohol while you watch a movie.
Which is smart.
It's great.
Man, I got to do a dinner and a movie. I remember I saw dinner and a movie to see Lord of the Rings.
Is that around here somewhere?
Yeah, it's in Saratoga.
I'd go.
It's near Laser Tag. We always go on dates. God damn it. It's near Laser Tag Arena, the outer world, outer space, or whatever the fuck it was.
Outer Zone doesn't exist.
Outer Zone, yeah. Well, it was near there.
I went. You know how I know that?
Oh, it's gonna be a sad story.
I went to bring my sister.
No.
And they said they were I went to where it used to be, and it wasn't there. Now there's a big hotel there, which is shit.
Sad.
And so I went on the website and I gave them a call, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're moving." And then they never did, because the whole area got bought out by the hotel. So I'm sure they got a great payday. So of course, they're just like, "Oh, we'll move," and they never opened.
I mean, that's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
Like a laser tag arena, that's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because you have to build a whole goddamn.
I wish laser tag was more of a thing though. Because it's fun with the right people.
I think bring in groups of people. You can't do it with randos. I hate rando. It's same. I kind of feel the same way that I feel about like competitive shooting games. Yeah, I much prefer to play with I'm good at certain shooters, but like I'd much prefer to play with people I know.
I went to there's a dinky little laser tag arena in a bowling alley in Clifton Park, which is fairly close to where we are now. And I went with a couple of friends from when I was working at Price Chopper. Now Matt, good friend of mine, Matt, he knew the guy who was running it, the kid who was running the thing for the night. So what the guy did was he just shut it off for us to go in, like the 6 or 7 of us. And, when you know the guy, he just let us break all the rules. So we were climbing on stuff, running around, screaming at each other. That was fun.
Real MVP,
that was fun. That guy's a champion. He was doing it with us, too. He strapped on a vest. He's like, I'm going to destroy you. And he did. And he did.
Can you imagine that's your job? Like, laser tag arena is one of those cool jobs.
That guy got paid that day, and I'm sure a lot of days, to play laser tag.
It's pretty sick.
That's dope.
But, so Jigsaw, pretty actually good movie. I think a big problem with the Saw franchise, to bring it back as abruptly as possible.
Well, I mean, look, we have to. We can't.
Yeah, with the big problem with the Saw franchise, I think is it's a product of its time. That mid 2000s, the whole 2000s was a horrible time for movies until Iron Man came out, and then people realized like, oh, that's what we want in a blockbuster. Yeah. Right. And horror movies are also inherently just kind of generally worse than normal movies. They have a bad
ratio, for sure.
Yeah, so like I'd say in normal movies, for every 1,000 bad movies, there's like one okay movie. In horror, for every like one okay movie, there's like 10,000 bad horror movies.
Well, it's so much so that really you don't see B action movies, but you see B horror movies.
B action movies are typically like reserved for like Bollywood.
Well, yeah, and they're around, but you don't. Yeah, what I'm saying,
they're mostly foreign. Yeah, you don't. In the American market, you don't see it.
You don't see B other movies as a known franchise. B horror movies is a thing that people specifically look for.
And I'm I wouldn't call myself like a horror movie fan because I hate that kind of labeling system. Sure. Because it's just like I don't want to identify with just things I like.
You watch Get Out?
I did.
Was it good?
Get Out was good.
I haven't watched it yet. It's downloaded on my computer.
I'm excited because Peele's going to put out a bunch of movies now.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was thrilled that was successful because he's very creative. I mean, both of the Key and Peele team are, but it's nice to see him peeling off from each other. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I think you do enough work with people, and then you go off on your own. It's like a solo project. Right?
Yeah, but now Jordan Peele, he could get anything made. Once Get Out was that successful, he could pitch anything in Hollywood now, and it'll get made. Yeah, and that's exciting.
Absolutely. So the Saw movies are a product of their time, right? Blockbusters were not good in the 2000s.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's when you have stuff like Monsterball, a movie that I will never stop referencing because we got to watch Monsterball. We should do like a live stream of you watching Monsterball because who the fuck's gonna copyright flag us on Monsterball?
Probably the people who made it.
Apparently.
What do you think they got? What do you think they got going on?
Nothing. Waiting
to copyright strike people who watch Monsterball. That's
some dick waiting on Google every 5 minutes refreshing Monsterball live stream.
We'll just stream it on Twitch and not put a VOD up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes so they run into the same problem where they're paced weird and it doesn't look good. There was an in between stage where people were starting to using HD cameras, but HD cameras weren't good yet.
Yeah.
And they should have been shooting on either film or I don't know. A guy with an Etch-a-Sketch because it would have looked better.
Just a police sketch artist.
A man with an Etch-a-Sketch doing frame by frame anime. Why has no one ever made a frame by frame?
Nobody's made an Etch-a-Sketch.
Could you imagine how much a fucking pain in the ass that would be?
So you know how somebody made the Lego movie,
right?
And they just made it look like Legos.
Yeah.
I bet you could do an Etch-a-Sketch movie.
You definitely could.
Because the Lego movie was so good because it was such a faithful recreation of Legos. They made scuff marks on some of them, as if things were handmade, and that was clever. Mm-hmm. So I bet you could make an Etch-a-Sketch movie and. Yeah, people would watch it. I mean, people fucking watch the Emoji Movie.
I bet. You mean the first movie in 35 years to be shown in Saudi Arabia?
To be publicly screened in Saudi Arabia. There's a little heck fun fact for you.
Why the hell? Okay, so
we've displayed to Saudi Arabia our worst cinema. Here's punishment for not screening movies for 35 years.
The Middle East typically already thinks that America is a horrible capitalist brainwashing machine.
And then we showed them the Emoji Movie.
Like, hey, you guys want the Emoji Movie? A thing that highlights all the worst parts about capitalism.
A thing that literally even everybody in America hated.
And it's just I mean, obviously, emojis are a cultural phenomenon.
That's fine, but we couldn't have showed them the Avengers or something.
No, that has Americans winning. Captain America winning?
America.
I don't think so.
That's true. Captain America.
And think about Iron Man 1.
Although those movies did well in China.
Well, of course. God, the Chinese love our action movies, which is great. I mean, it's cool that American movies get a wide reach. If you ever get the chance, you should delve into some. I've been watching a lot of Ghana films from Ghana. They are currently going through this crazy renaissance where they're doing a lot of movies, a lot. One director will put out 3 movies a year, 4 movies a year. Because they do them really quick with really cheap stock special effects.
They're making them they make porn movies.
They know it is, and it's crazy because they have all but it's really cool because you get a real look into their culture and not only what they're projecting, right? Because you look at a movie, you look at any kind of media, that's what you are projecting what your cultural values are.
Yeah.
Or you are playing on cultural values in some capacity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so seeing Ghana, a place that is full of political unrest, it's been in war for 99% of its existence.
So that's what the movies are.
No, the movies
they're anti.
The movies are about typically their biggest and most popular movies are called Sakawa movies, and Sakawa is a cultural movement in which young men commit internet scams.
Oh yeah.
To get rich.
Yeah, we watched.
To watch the Vice.
Yeah, we watched the Vice, and they talked about those movies.
The Sakawa, and so I saw that. I don't know. Probably saw that video first time 4 years ago. And I'm I gotta watch some Ghana action movies.
Guyanese movies.
Let me fucking tell you something. They use stock effects of well-known characters. The Predator shows up a lot. They have this one, and the Alien does too, but it's a weird Alien Predator mix. It's clearly some kind of bastardized.
They're making.
How fast can I slap this out in Sculpty?
They're making fucking Spider-Man Elsa YouTube videos and putting them in theaters.
No, it's really like that. It's really like that, and you can. And it's crazy. The movie, the DVD sales market in Ghana is one of their biggest economic things, and you'll go in and it looks like there's a certain section of Ghana where
I bet they sell them like they sell bootlegs here.
No, it is. And you go into a store and one of these video stores, and it's crazy. I mean, it looks like a library from Harry Potter. There are things leaning against each other, and it looks supernatural. It looks magical, some kind of Sakawa magic. Which, by the way, they often go to voodoo priests to bless them so they can scam on the internet better. Which is my favorite.
Weird.
That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I'm floored by the fact that this culture exists, and like so does like civilized. I don't know. It's just weird, right? Because you live one way, and you can't even think of something so diametrically opposed to how one lives existing, and it thrives.
Yeah, and then in Ghana they have as many like computer billboards, because usually what we do is a lot of first world countries, when if you're ever wondering where your e-waste goes, it goes to Ghana. It goes to these horrible fields in Ghana where it's burned and then all the important parts are harvested.
For internet scammers.
Fun fact: garbage doesn't just go away when you throw it out.
Oh man, you mean there's a fucking continent-sized fucking garbage island in the middle of the ocean somewhere?
And it's like, but what you do is
that's real.
You go to these fields and you basically dig through. And when I say a field, I mean it is like a wasteland of. It looks like IBM threw up on a desert.
Oh yeah,
and everything's burning and everyone's inhaling. It's horrible. The plastics.
Oh yeah, plastics gases. And chemically treated metals burning.
And what you can do, and I think on the Vice article, the guy said he's like, for like $5 American, you can build yourself a whole computer, and that's motherboard and everything. And people do it every
you go over there and be a king.
You shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't.
But you could.
Could though.
And it's crazy. But yeah, so the 2000s were very much like, they were a weird time for films because no one had their shit together. And so I think the Saw franchise got affected by that unfairly. Because a lot of it, they're in the Saw movies, I think there's a lot of cool ideas. In the plot, not just the torture devices are cool when it's always shot.
Again, people get so caught up. Not everything's trying to be Citizen Kane.
Yeah, it's not everything has to be a goddamn.
No one's lauding the writing of Saw movies. They're popcorn. They're fun.
Oh no, people will critique them. I'm like, come on.
That's what I'm saying.
If you watch any horror movie, it's all shit.
The people who defend the Saw movies aren't saying, "Well, the writing's great."
You're an idiot. No, I would never.
They're like, "Yeah, you're right. The writing's terrible," but like, have you watched it though?
As a professional words boy, I can tell you that story's bad.
Yeah,
that story is meandering and it is confusing.
But that's not
when it doesn't need
to
be. But I don't watch Saw because I want to read the fucking Iliad. I watch Saw because I want to see some goddamn people get chopped in half, and that's pretty fucking cool. So the new movie, Jigsaw, it really circumvents a lot of those old problems. Right? It looks good. It's shot well. The lighting is great. It looks like a new franchise, and so the plot of the movie, it's not complicated. You find it out immediately.
Sure.
10 years, because in one of the last Saw movies, I think it's the fourth one, Jigsaw dies.
Yeah.
John Kramer, Jigsaw dies, and then he has people, but this is 10 years after the death of Jigsaw, and then Jigsaw crimes start happening again, and you find out he was never fucking dead. They
because of course they did.
Right, and that's not the big twist.
Because when your writing is always shit, you can just retcon whatever you want.
It's like, well, that's what they were doing. They're like, okay, so everyone thinks the story is stupid. Why don't we just make a new one? And the new one was samey, but really compelling, oddly compelling.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded a return to form. The first one was, I don't want to say so psychological, but it was more in the style that I like, where it was largely one set and it was all about interactions, and I really like that.
That's a classic low budget move, right? Where you don't have the money to make a big CGI filled fun fest. It's the same reason why we don't do special effects in our opening skits. We don't fucking have a special effects budget.
And what are you talking about?
And even
we got $20 whole every year.
We have blown that immediately in this year. Wait, this year we're good.
We're all right. We haven't spent a dime.
We got $20 whole for the next 11 months.
Watch out, boys and girls.
The future
comes content.
You guys are getting Ghanaian action movies.
Can we please make a Ghanaian action movie?
Oh, we absolutely
a Guyanese action movie.
I have a green screen and everything.
Woo!
We can do that easy.
Of course we could.
We can even set it in Ghana.
We can get horrible stock footage of Predator and Alien.
You know how many stock footage accounts I have on so many different stock footage websites?
I mean, if you don't believe we can get stock footage, just go watch the Purge video.
It's true. That's all stock footage. It's It's a good one.
It's my favorite gag we've ever done that I don't think anybody thought was funny.
I don't think anyone watched that. The whole no one was paying attention to it, right?
No,
the video.
Of course not.
I hope they're not. I'm sorry if you did.
We could probably look at the YouTube analytics and see where people were on the video. And
they watched 3 minutes in, and then we start talking, and they log out.
I wish we had. So I'm gonna say this right to our limited audience's face. I wish we had an audience that would tell us what they like and what they don't. Tell us what you like.
Oh yeah,
tell us what you don't.
Being vocal, please. We're super receptive to any kind of not just criticism, but any kind of ideas or advice or concept. Because I mean, we're not trying to exact some kind of grand vision.
No, we're just having fun, man.
Yeah, and so if you guys want to see something, even if it's just one dude, if you just are
I think at this point it's pretty clear that we're just having fun because we've done this for over a year and maybe a year and a half almost.
Well, we started in September.
Getting there. It's going to be a year and a half.
About a year.
So we're almost at a year and a half, and we haven't grown very much. But that's okay. We're doing it for fun.
Hang on, I disagree. I think we've grown a lot.
As people.
No. No, I think our content's gotten a lot better.
Oh, our content's gotten much better. I just mean as far as our audience goes.
Yeah. Well, you want to know how we've gotten better? We reel it back in when we go on tangents.
That's true.
And so...
Sure.
I'm mad about Chief Wahoo.
Hold on, let's look at that real quick.
You want to... Yeah, okay, that's good. All right. So... we talked about this before. If anyone's not familiar, Chief Wahoo is the mascot of the
Cleveland Indians.
The Cleveland Indians.
If you guys want to hear our previous thoughts on Chief Wahoo, just go back to the podcast.
It's episode 9.
Just look for a big Chief Wahoo
and
in the thumbnail, because that's our memo.
And a Russian eagle. There's a Russian eagle.
There's a Russian eagle in that one. Yeah.
Listen, I make all of those, and so I never forget. I think it's episode 9, but I might be wrong. I'll put put it in the description or something.
But the update, though. So you're the one who's mad about this, so I'll report this as a newsman. The update. Chief Wahoo is no longer the quote-unquote official logo of the Cleveland Indians. They won't be putting them on the jersey sleeve or using him as the team mascot for effective the 2019 season.
Mm-hmm.
However, they'll still be using him on merchandise. They'll still be selling merchandise with Chief Wahoo on it because they want to retain the copyright.
Right, and because he's an iconic part of baseball.
Well, sure, and they'll sell merchandise, and that's fine. Whatever. I mean, look, I don't care one way or another. The Cleveland Indians are on a come-up, and I don't blame them if they think this is a better PR move. These baseball teams are meant to win games and make money, and if they think this will help them make money, and maybe the money will help them win more games because baseball is not a salary cap league, then
unfortunately,
so be it. However, you're mad.
I'm mad because it's completely hypocritical. It's nonsense, right? And
it is a tad wishy-washy.
So,
I'll admit, I'll give you that. It's a tad wishy-washy.
Yeah. So here's the problem with it, right? My problem with it is that if you think, okay, so whether or not you think Chief Wahoo is offensive is pretty insignificant, right? But
in this instance, in this argument,
I think in general, right? Because it's just like a mascot. It is not a big deal. It's not supposed to be a cultural, political statement. It is a picture, right? It is a picture that has been, first of all, totally okayed by the Native Americans in the area. They have done research. They did it with the Redskins. They've done it with the Indians. They've done it with the Chiefs.
There's a reason. I'll say this much. There's a reason that all these teams are still named the Indians and the Redskins, and they still have Chief Wahoo. Because largely, people don't care.
Right.
There's
the people that are affected, right? If it is like a majority of people that would be affected by this, right, and they don't care, then it shouldn't matter.
And you
can't get offended for other people.
Yeah,
getting offended for other people
obviously, let's put this out here. One does not decide what other people find offensive. Like, that's up to the individual.
Well, imagine
but
this.
Of course, you have to weigh who finds it offensive. So in this case, you have Native Americans who largely, by all accounts, don't find it offensive. Not to say there aren't some, again, because there's some people on the fringe minorities.
Statistics don't mean anything to the individual. Yeah.
So, yeah, of course, you have to consider who finds it offensive. So in this case, the quote-unquote affected group largely doesn't find it offensive.
Right.
So even I, who am pretty ambivalent towards all this, because I don't really care. I like sports for sports. I don't necessarily like sports for the commentary. I'm ambivalent, and even I know these people don't really care.
Right, and the problem is, if they're going to do it, fine. If you feel like you're going to be respecting a culture by not putting Chief Wahoo up, fine. That's fine. But the problem is they're taking him off as their mascot, but they're still selling merchandise.
It's wishy-washy. It's halfway.
It's not only wishy-washy. It's a phrase that people use online a lot, and I think gets thrown around a little too much. But this is a classic case of virtue signaling, where you say you are doing a thing, like oh, I stand with women at the Women's March, and you're there, and you take a selfie, and you go home. You're not an activist. You're not helping any groups. You're not doing anything actively.
You're there to show people,
look how good of a person I am. You are signaling about your virtues without any action, right?
It's basically...
And it's nonsense. It's total shit, because if they really cared about offending people, and I think they kind of do, but I also don't think so, because they're still selling the merchandise.
None of these people, I don't think, at least the ones that run the Redskins, which I'm familiar with, because that was a controversy a couple years ago, and the ones that run the Indians, because it's a controversy now. It's barely being talked about. Mm-hmm. But as far as those two organizations go, they've pretty clearly shown that they don't really care. And that's whatever. It's fine. Again, because no one. Very few people are really bothered by it.
Yeah, and I don't want it to become a tyranny of the majority situation, but at the same time, if I'm in a room with 9 people who think my joke is funny and one person who doesn't, I'm telling that fucking joke.
If you listen to the fringe on everything, nothing ever gets done.
No, right, because there's wackadoos on every single side of every single issue.
There's going to be one person who tells you, I need air to survive. There's going to be one crazy motherfucker on this planet who's like, yeah, you can't breathe oxygen. That's a...
Air is a government reptilian plot.
That's right.
And that's me.
You can't listen to these fringe people on everything, because nothing will get done.
Right, and so it seems so... I think it's... Again, I'm not the group affected by this, or the group allegedly affected by this. However, as a person with sympathy and empathy, because I'm a developed human being... which is a thing that I also don't like. People be like, well, you don't understand their issue. Like, I'm a fucking person.
Yeah.
You're not calling me a person, or are you calling them not people?
I've been offended before. Yeah, if someone else is offended, I will empathize with them.
Right, because the beauty of humanity is that we can empathize with each other, even though we're different people.
When there's public outcry, it's always very important to listen to it. Whether you need to acknowledge it or not depends on the situation and context, but it's always important to listen to it. So... if there were, in this hypothetical situation, rallies of people saying, get rid of Chief Wahoo, that's a very important thing to listen to.
Right, like if there was Cleveland Indian fans in the stands and it was a full house and they started chanting, no more Wahoo, no more Wahoo,
but
then maybe...
Nothing even close. There hasn't even been people picketing outside the Indians stadium.
No, there's just...
Nobody cares that much.
No, because it doesn't matter.
In the grand scheme of things, we got bigger fucking problems.
Because it is a goddamn baseball team's logo. Who gives a shit, right? And it's just this crazy world where people can just... And the worst part, the absolute worst part is they are going to sell just as many Chief Wahoo items as they would have before, but now they look better, right? They're having their cake and they're eating it too. They're taking this opportunity to be like, look... we have the moral high ground here, and we're so smart and clever, and we're not trying to offend anyone. But if you want to buy a Chief Wahoo shirt, just gotta go www.mlb.com/theindians.
Which again,
and it's nonsense. It's total shit.
I don't.
Cleveland has enough problems with the Browns, where they don't need more fucking meme problems.
The Browns are just to put this out there. The Browns are 1-31 in their last 2 seasons.
Also, the Cleveland has a history of having fun logos, like the brownie, the
little brownie, the little pixie, that's
the pixie spray
football logo.
I was watching the Giants game last weekend. No, what was I watching? I was watching the Patriots game.
There was certainly no Giants game.
No, it wasn't the Giants game. It was the Patriots game. I was watching with my parents. My parents are Giants fans. And so I was there at their house, and I was watching the Patriots game, and where the fuck are they going with the story? Oh my god! Oh, and I told my parents about the brownie, and they're like, we don't know what
they had no idea.
They didn't know.
Nobody knows.
They have scrubbed that record so clean, and that's what's gonna happen to Wahoo. Right in 30 years from now.
Well, or here's my theory on it, right? Because they're trying very hard to retain the copyright. That's why they're still selling merchandise. I think they're doing this for a few years until it blows over.
Right, because I get this. The wave of everyone being hyper offended by everything is starting to go away.
Yeah, which if they were going to get rid of it permanently, they wouldn't try to hold on to the copyright. They wouldn't care.
Right.
But since they're holding on to the copyright, I feel like they even have plans to bring it back, which, again, by me is fine.
King Wahoo.
But viewing it from the outside is pretty shitty.
It's skeezy.
It's weak. It shows no backbone.
It's like if you think Chief Wahoo's okay, then he can be your... You can't have... Right, either it's all okay or none of it's okay.
So,
iDubbbz.
I will say the...
Greatest philosopher of our time.
The,
Socrates. Plato.
The controversy around the Redskins was bigger... And I mean, this might just be virtue of it being a bigger sport in this day and age. The controversy around the Redskins was bigger than the controversy around Chief Wahoo.
Because baseball doesn't matter.
That's probably it. But like, there was Native Americans coming out, and there, and then also a bunch of just other people who are professionally offended for other people. But all these people came out against the name Redskins, and I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I admire the owner of the Redskins for saying, "Nah, piss off! I'm not going to rename my team."
Well, that and
he said it flatly. He didn't go halfway.
He was like, "Okay, well, we'll call ourselves the." Whatever, and here's our new name. But if you want to buy old Redskins stuff, it's still on NFL.
Yeah, they didn't go halfway. They said, "Piss off, we're not doing it," and it hasn't really hurt their product. As a matter of fact, for sports fans out there, they just got Alex Smith signed, and that's pretty cool because no more fucking Kirk Cousins in Washington. I am so sick of Kirk Cousins. He is not good, and he's been paid fucking like the franchise tag for the last 2 years. He's been paid like $20 million a year for the last 2 years. Fuck that guy.
You know what the Chief Wahoo thing reminds me of? It reminds me of, remember, the most recent Alaskan pipeline fiasco?
Yeah.
Where they're trying to build the pipeline, and it was on sacred land, and they didn't want them to build it. And what happened was, there were real people there who lived there, who were part of the tribe, who were petitioning against it. And then 80 bajillion assholes came, hippie, communist assholes, and they trashed the place. If you look at pictures, if you ever get a chance, look at pictures of the camp where people were staying to protest the pipeline. It is a trash. They left all their trash. They made it worse.
It's such a shame because...
Which shows me they don't care, and that's how I feel about the Indians.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a shame because I don't want to say most... A lot of activists these days are just doing it for their 15 minutes of fame, and that's a really shitty way to do activism. I'm a big believer in standing up for what you believe in, large and small scale. That's great. Show your activism, but actually give a shit, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe something I don't agree with you, I will fight to the death to defend your ability to say your opinion.
Damn passion.
Yeah, well, yeah, so some commitment. Ideas with, because commitment was destroyed in the 60s at Berkeley by hippies.
I would hope that maybe our couple of viewers here who have watched us all this time, they know we're a little bit opposed on a lot of things. Just as the broad spectrum, he's a little more right wing, I'm a little more left wing.
Yeah, we're both vaguely centrist with left or right leanings,
but we disagree a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's policy that we just straight up don't agree on.
But there's a reason we respect each other. It's because we both believe in our convictions and show it.
Right, and it's also coming from an informed place, right? Like, I never hear Mitchell say something that is just patently untrue.
Yeah, kids out there, don't talk about things you don't know. That's something I've learned as I've aged.
Especially with the prevalence of smartphones, you can Google anything you want whenever you want to. You never have to be uninformed anymore.
Don't fucking...
It's a choice now.
And it goes to as small as don't lie about having seen a movie to as big as don't stand up for something you don't know anything about.
Yeah, because if you do that, you become not only a weak link in the chain for that good.
You're going to be what an opposing person picks out and says, look at this guy. This whole faction is wrong because this guy doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right. It's like on both sides. I mean, politically, you look like the SJWs and the alt-right. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Because you have a bunch of people who are pulled into a movement because it's sexy and it's interesting.
Yeah. How many times have I bailed on a conversation because I'm like, I just don't know enough?
I mean, whenever you need to. I mean, I've seen you do it more than once. Absolutely.
Because it's so important. Admit you don't know something, then go learn about it if it interests you.
Right, and then when you learn about it, you come back not only with an informed opinion, but a more whole opinion.
And it could even be the opposite opinion of what you went in with.
Yeah, because there's a lot of junk numbers and junk science going around.
Statistics can say whatever you want them to.
Yeah, 70% of statistics aren't accurate.
Including that one.
Is it true? See, you don't know. That's a Pew Research study, actually. I can just say that. Yeah. It's not.
It's not.
It's
you can
absolutely
say it.
not. But I can say it, and people will be like, I heard on the internet the other day that a guy said 70% of statistics aren't right, and he said it was from Pew, and I didn't fucking check because I can't Google for 2 fucking seconds.
Yeah, we live in the information age, and that's great until you don't use it.
Right, it's like we have all these amazing advantages, and people. I've talked to people, and they're arguing with me, and they're like, well, I don't know anything about it, I guess.
So I'm gonna throw this out there, right? I was in high school, and this is obviously a small example. When I was in high school, I used to just kind of talk out my ass.
Sure.
I mean, as we all did, kids.
As a teenager, it's, yeah.
I said as a teenager, like, I don't like ska music. I'd never listened to ska music.
The fuck?
Ska music is like my favorite music.
Yeah, I was that. Yeah, ska came before reggae.
Yeah.
Ska
has had like 4 waves. It's great.
But yeah, that's
But you don't talk about things you don't know.
My favorite one. Here's a litmus test. If you ever want to know if someone doesn't know what they're talking about, ask them what kind of genre of music they like, and if you hear the response, I like all kinds of music except for rap and country, you stop listening to them.
It's true.
That is unless they can continue that with, but I've also listened to a lot of it, and it's just really not my thing, right? Because like I said, that's the litmus test for who is fucking lying to you.
Because the popular genres of music to hate are rap and country,
right? Because you hate them for the same reason, like, oh, it's too white, oh, it's too black. It's like that. You hate them for the same reason.
You hate country because it's all trucks and beer and my cheating wife.
And all rap is about Percocet and Molly and drinking lean.
But that just means if you have that opinion, you haven't listened to it,
right? Because
and that's okay.
Yeah.
But just say, I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, well, people are afraid to not know things because I feel like we put people on blast a lot.
It's true.
Which is fair, right? I always think, don't put your hat in the ring, right? If you're not ready to fight, right? Like if you're not ready, why the hell would you get into an optional altercation?
Ignorance is okay. Continued ignorance is not.
Well, willful ignorance.
Willful ignorance is not okay.
It's a point where we have to be as a group of people, as a country, as a world, we have to be afraid that people are just not caring anymore about knowing things.
Well, people don't hold themselves to a standard, it seems.
Well, right. Well, because I mean,
and again,
if we want to talk about the destruction of aesthetics,
I don't want to say most.
I could put a whole goddamn podcast about how the hippies destroyed aesthetics and value and all that. Very fun topic.
Again, I don't want to disparage most, because most people that I've met are fine. It's the outliers of people that are shit.
Right. Well, because the most awful group of people is always the most vocal, but is also the smallest fraction, right? It's
the vocal minority is a very real thing in everything.
It is. It spans from the Westboro Baptist to the Black Panthers to Al Qaeda, now ISIS. All these things,
I mean,
are not indicative of their
group.
And then
all the way down to fan bases of TV shows, and you can't judge something based on its fringe minority.
Yeah, well, because it's human nature to be convicted, right? But conviction without purpose is just destructive.
Conviction without purpose and conviction without information.
Yeah, I really hope that I can look back one day and be like, you know what? I think I did okay. I think I did well enough, and I did enough research, and again, even though I'm a little more right-leaning, I'll read left publications and right publications and centrist. Because
it's very important to collect information because it allows you not to get stuck in a confirmation bias.
Right, because you can absolutely get caught in a goddamn circle jerk, especially in the age of the internet where it's all circle jerks.
Well, and it's why, we work so well together, I think, because we kind of keep each other in check.
Yeah, like if I go too off the rails or you go too off the rails, we kind of reel each other back in, and that's what good friends should do. No, but seriously, I think people, goddamn it, read, goddamn it. I cannot tell you how many people that I met during my, my sentence in college.
Yeah, I mean, it was ostensibly prison. It was designed by a prison architect. Well, let's not get into that. Yeah, that'd be a real heck tangent.
I could talk about that for days. But I met so many people who acted informed and were not. And there was nothing more aggravating than finding out that someone you've been arguing with actually doesn't know what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a field like literature where you can tell when someone doesn't read a book, right? If someone was like, Metamorphosis was really good, Kafka. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. When he turned into the cockroach, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, when he what? And I'm like, oh, so you didn't read it, because that's important. And, and it's just like...
But that just goes back to the point of don't lie about stupid shit.
Why?
Like, yeah, okay. Again, we're in a unique position for this because we do a series of videos online where we haven't watched popular movies. But, like, I'll tell people all the time, I haven't watched all the Lord of the Rings movies. I haven't watched all the Star Wars movies.
We talked about that earlier. You haven't watched all the Star Wars movies?
I haven't watched all the Star Wars movies.
I actively kind of dislike Star Wars.
I've seen episode 1, I've seen episode 4, and I've seen parts of episode 5.
That's a bizarre...
Well, and then I saw episode 7 that came out.
I haven't even seen episode 7.
It was just A New Hope again.
Sure.
Don't watch it.
Of course.
Don't bother.
Well, Star Wars is always just the same thing over and over again. Sorry, everyone.
Well, no, but I mean plot points. It was A New Hope again.
It was, what I understand, it was beat for beat. Pretty much.
It was essentially the same movie. And that comes from me, who's barely watched Star Wars. I recognize it in the theater. That's pretty bad.
Like,
I'm like, I think I've seen this movie before, but it just came out 2 days ago.
Luke and Leia?
It was pretty bad.
Luke looks different.
It was pretty bad. Like, the movie itself was okay.
Sure.
The characters were fine and the special effects were fine, but that's just because, whatever, the special effects are new, and the characters were fine because it was A New Hope and everybody loved that movie.
Right, well, listen, there is no such thing as a new idea. Every movie, every idea has already been done, and you just gotta do something new.
That's true.
But nobody can because it's impossible.
Even we.
Well, I think especially in this information age, we are very much a product of what we consume.
Oh, yeah, we consume a lot of media. We've talked about that before.
We talk about it all the time, where we are just an amalgam of what we have absorbed, mixed in with what we are kind of naturally, right? Mm-hmm. It's a nature versus nurture debate, which shouldn't be a debate. But just throwing that out there.
Nurture all the way, yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly about, I'd say it's a good 20-80 split. 20 how you're born, because you can be born a fucking nut job.
Oh, well, look.
Or you can be born exceptionally, motivated.
Like, a lot of mental illnesses are ostensibly deformities because your brain just doesn't work right.
Sure.
And that's fine. That you can be born that way. That's nature. But then a lot of it is nurture, right? Because, you have people who were born in, got no education and made something of themselves. And that's clearly in their nature. Mm-hmm. But then you have people who were born in shit and made nothing of themselves, and that's probably part of their nurture.
Yeah, and it's like when you meet a pathological liar, right? You always have to kind of figure out, like where'd you learn this, or are you like,
or is it just part of your brain,
right? Because if it's a learned behavior, it can be changed. Because if it was learned once, it can be learned again, right? But if it's an inherent, integrated part of their brain circuitry,
yeah, you're in a rough spot. It could potentially be fixed with medication and therapy, but it's a lot harder.
Well, know what else could be fixed? Know how else you could fix it?
Well, actually, you know what else? Shit. You know what else could be fixed? There was a headline a few weeks ago that the NFL was fixing games, and now I said to that, why would that serve them at all? Because if the NFL was fixing games and restricting people from celebrating and stuff, like the WWE works, right? Because it's fixed and everybody knows it.
Right.
But they allow their fiction, personalities to be personalities.
Yeah.
The NFL, if the NFL was fixed, why wouldn't they be allowing all these people to make fun things?
Right, because it would draw more people in. Well, it's probably because they want to imagine, but no, look, it's real.
And then the NFL also wouldn't be served because of how much money comes in from betting, gambling, how much viewership they get from people betting money on their games. If somebody found out that the NFL was fixed, people would just stop watching. Because what's the point? They're not fun. Like, they don't allow their players to do the fun stuff.
Right, it's not like an over-the-top,
Why would they stage 5-yard out routes?
I have a better question. Why would you lie about Atari games? Because let me tell you, you've been following this head transplant guy.
We're not going to talk about the Super Bowl at all.
We are not. The Super Bowl is Eagles versus Patriots, and the Eagles are going to lose to the Patriots.
Is that your hot take?
Yeah.
Well, let me get my hot take out there. If the Eagles have a -5 or more, take the Eagles on the bet.
That's fair.
If the Eagles are getting 5 points, take it. Because they have Tom Brady's kryptonite, which is pressure with 4.
Who's making fun of his kid.
And also, Boston radio is making fun of Tom Brady's kid.
Before we talk about the man who cheated at Atari games and is very cool. Shit, we have 6 minutes. All right, here's what we're gonna do, real quick. Let me give you a quick breakdown of Tom Brady. What happened? All right, he was on a radio show. His kid was being annoying. His kid is in a documentary that recently came out. The
Tom versus Time.
Time versus Time is the name of it. Time after
now,
Tom.
actually, let me jump in. The radio host who insulted Tom Brady's daughter, this radio host on WEEI, I don't remember his name, doesn't matter. He called Tom Brady's daughter an annoying little pissant. Now,
which also, like, what fucking year is he from?
He calls everybody a pissant. By the way, I've seen tweets.
Is that his shtick?
Apparently. I've seen tweets where he said pissant. It's just
that
his
kind
word.
of. Well, that almost kind of puts a different twist on the story for me.
It sort of does.
If that's his
that's why I said it was sort of benign, right? So
it's like being mad that you got watermelon on you at a Gallagher
on Friday
show.
I don't remember, on a Friday, last Friday, doesn't matter. Sorry, my apologies. On last Friday, this radio host for WEEI, he's a contributor, not really a host. Sorry. He said Tom Brady's daughter is an annoying little pissant because of such and such scene in this documentary. On the following Monday, Tom Brady went on for his weekly interview with Kirk and Callahan, which is a show on WEEI. Neither one of those guys is the one who said it, but he brought it up because it was on the station, and the guy is a contributor to that show. So he basically dismissed himself and said, hey, I don't know if I'll be on. I've showed you guys a lot of respect over the years. I've been doing the show for a long time, and your guy has shown me no respect, so I'm going to just back off.
And as, like, I'm thinking of it now, and there's a lot of factors here, right? Because we all know kids suck. Every kid is annoying, and it doesn't matter who the kid is, right? There are very few kids that my mom ran a daycare for about 20 plus years, and I have seen every different kind of fucking kid there is, and most of them suck, right? Yeah, sure, you'll get like a nice one, like, oh, you're quiet. It's not that they're nice, they're quiet.
They're largely quiet.
Right, they're a piece of shit when they open their mouth, but they're quiet. And it's like, okay, well, I'll accept that. That's, like, I'm going to punch you once a day, or I'm going to punch you every hour. Like, I'll take the once a day,
I'll take the once a day,
please.
thank you.
Thank you. I just, but, we all think about this, about other people's kids, right? You're at a fucking grocery store, and you hear a kid crying, and you're like...
what an annoying little shit.
And you're like, oh my God, if I was that parent... and everyone tries to do that. But at the same time, if I had a daughter and someone called her an annoying pissant, I think I might get into a fist fight.
Especially if you had the power of Tom Brady.
Tom Brady could deflate that man's life.
In New England?
He could deflate his life. I'm telling you.
Boo. Boo.
The coldest possible take.
Weak. So, my feelings on this, just so we can get to this Atari story real quick. My thoughts on this is the guy should probably be suspended. Don't talk shit about the guy's daughter, A, and B, when the guy is the best quarterback maybe ever,
the most winning quarterback,
and he's in your market. That's a real bad move on your part.
It's not like us making fun of the Browns. Like we're
not in Cleveland.
We don't have to worry about Browns fans beating us up in a parking lot.
That would be like that guy who Buffalo Wild Wings guy. That would be like Buffalo Wild Wings guy making fun of. Actually, there's another story there, but I'll tell you off. He got into a feud with Joe Thomas, the tackle for the Browns, the best player the Browns have had maybe ever. Joe Thomas, imminent Hall of Famer. This guy is random radio host that we talked about before, Buffalo Wild Wings guy who wants to fight
Buffalo
people.
Wild Wings guy. At Buffalo,
I'll be a Buffalo Wild Wings.
What a champion!
This fucking guy, he got into a confrontation. Of course, a radio confrontation, not a real life confrontation, because Joe Thomas would eat this man. He got into a confrontation over the radio with this guy for trying to have a podcast, the second most downloaded podcast on iTunes. It's not whatever, not a big deal. But that'd be like that guy getting into a feud with like the Browns. Like it's actually the same thing. That guy's a dickhead.
Yeah.
And so is this guy. But like suspend him, don't fire him. If they fire him, too far.
Also, it's like he has to pander to his audience, right? And as a Northeasterner, as someone who's part of that kind of area,
well, he's fully in New England. We're in New York.
That's what I'm saying. But like our attitude up here is so different than other people's, right? And like we will just fucking make fun of people right to their face. Are you coming up here?
Here comes
nice.
The cat.
So like we'll make fun of people right to their face. He's gonna go to the cat.
That's fine.
You little bastard.
What a twat.
So What the fuck was I saying? My phone just vibrated. I thought I turned that off. Man, this podcast is just falling apart.
I'm having fun.
Here. So, yeah, the thing I was saying, you can't fucking make fun of someone's kid, but at the same time, we come from a place where, example, whatever you think about the president, whatever, the way he talks is very New York. He says shit like like the whole shithole controversy. There he is again. The whole shithole controversy. That's some shit that we'd say. Oh yeah. It's not disrespectful. It's a descriptor. Yeah. Right. It's like we use words a lot harsher. I think we use a lot more harsh words.
I think for this guy, pissant is kind of his replacement for shit. When you call a kid like, what a little shit. Like that's not necessarily bad.
You call him a little bastard.
Yeah, it's just like look at this little shit. Like, it's not bad. It's just what you call a kid, whatever.
And I think it's like
you're not gonna call them that to their face,
right? But yeah, like that's the thing. You gotta realize when to dial it back. Like when I'm talking
like
to
this cat, this annoying little shit,
right? And it's like you like him. He's a good cat.
He's just an annoying little shit.
But like, fuck him. I hope he dies. But you don't, right? That's just. I feel like we have a very harsh way of speaking. Even to our friends. Oh, yeah. Like, I come up and I'll open the door and be like, what's up, fucker? And it's like, wow.
Yeah, but that's also the language of intimacy among men.
That's true.
Insults are the language of intimacy among men.
We're gay.
That's true.
It's true. And here's how it's happening.
What are you going to do?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
I have a girlfriend and I love her. So...
I don't.
Which part?
Either. No, that's not true. I love Maggie.
She's great. Man, so a guy cheated at Atari games. That's pretty fucking lame.
Yeah, it's real lame. That's like the biggest nerd move I've ever heard in my life.
Well, on top of it, it's, there's no saying. So, background, Todd Rogers, he is a well-known retro game enthusiast. He was well-known as an expert gamer back in the day.
He's held the longest standing record in video games.
Right, and which was a game called Dragster for the Atari. Probably 2600 if I had to guess. Maybe for the 800 line of computers. Who knows?
Whatever.
It probably came out in a bunch of shit. Anyway.
Who cares?
So I've been following this guy for a while because I'm super into retro computing. And I used to be really, really into retro gaming. And so this guy is a big name. I mean, he is Billy Mitchell, which is the king of Kong. Oh, yeah. He is Billy Mitchell huge in this kind of community. And it has come out recently that his score was fake. His high score, which is a 551 on Dragster for the Atari, is fake.
They've recently determined by computer models and such that it is impossible to get a time under 5.7 something.
It's something like that. Like just the way the math works out and how the software
frames
takes
of stuff. It's not possible. I mean, just like it's not physically possible to run 100 meters any faster than humanly possible.
Right.
It's not possible.
You can't go above the speed of light because
because you can't. The computer dictates that you can't get a time any faster than whatever 5.7 something.
And so this guy was holding this record for forever, which was never officially recorded. The way the whole story goes is that he was at Atari headquarters back in the day, and he played a bunch of games because he has a bunch of records for the developers, programmers, and executives at the time. And they've officially scrubbed his records from Twin Galaxies, which is pretty much the premier video game record.
Yeah, and if you need any evidence of that, they're the ones that are affiliated with the Guinness Book of World Records.
Right. Internationally known and respected for no other reason that they exist.
Yeah, so not only has Mr. Todd Rogers had his record scrubbed from Twin Galaxies, he's also had all his records scrubbed from the Guinness Book.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that happens all the time. People will find like, oh, okay, you cheated, right? But in video games, it's a lot harder because typically it takes video proof. And he had a lot of records that had no video proof. They kind of took him on his word.
Yeah. Well, and they took him on his word, and they took the Atari higher-ups executives on their word.
Like, no, we saw it. And it's like, okay... At the time, for people who don't know, Atari at the time in the 70s, everyone was high, and I mean the whole time. You read these stories about before Jack Tramiel, which is I think he's still the standing CEO of Atari, came in and fixed the shit, made it like a business, and then drove Atari into the ground, which is the funniest thing.
What a shame.
Again, I could talk about that for fucking forever, but before that, it was their office culture was so 70s, was so boho, get high, hippie shit all the time. Right? And so, who the fuck was sober during that besides the guy playing the game? Nobody.
The biggest supporter that Todd Rogers has at this point is one of the old Atari guys who is saying that I don't remember the exact time, but like he was pretty fucking good. So
they
I
were
don't
like,
doubt he said he got what he says.
Yeah,
he
the
got.
quote in the article I read was like, the guy said something along the lines of like, you know, the way he was playing the games, he was confidently and he was so adept in front of everyone who made the game, and he was doing stuff that they didn't think was like possible.
Yeah.
Right? And so I can understand where it might come from. Like, oh, he could have gotten the score, but there's no record. And he couldn't duplicate it. Every time he tried to duplicate it, he couldn't.
Well, and even they were talking. They're talking now about holding an event where he'll run it and get the time, which is absolutely ridiculous because not only do we at this point know it's impossible, but that it would just be a PR move. Because people are going to tune in, and they're going to...
Well, hang on, though, but this is really good for Atari, because Atari...
Oh, it's great for Atari.
Well, hang on, though, because Atari's coming out with their new plug-and-play console. They're doing that new Atari, whatever the hell they're calling it, their new console. This is just a PR move, right? They're bringing all this up, and maybe he can get the score, or maybe they fucking flub it anyways, and who cares, because it's Dragster for the Atari, right? That's the thing, like, they're not... This is not Donkey Kong, it's not Pac-Man.
But that's actually the beauty of it, though. You know who will fucking care is, now that it's been news, everybody...
Exactly, and I'll see if this, because it sounds like a big old fucking PR. This just sounds like marketing.
Oh yeah,
it sounds like this guy. Oh no, he didn't do it. We're gonna scrub his records, but then we're gonna hold an event where he gets it back.
Yeah,
that's so. It's like watching The Wizard. You know it's shit.
It is like watching.
How did that little kid who never fucking played Mario 3 do all the Mario 3 tricks? How'd he do it?
Movie magic.
Bullshit. He cheated. Fuck you, Fred Savage. Fuck you, Fred Savage.
And on that note,
official heck recommendation. Fuck you, Fred Savage. It's not a recommendation at all. But I guess just to round it out, do you have anything else you want to hit on before we go?
Oh boy, I can't think of anything.
This is gonna be real fun to edit when I realize that we've just been going.
It's been nuts. This has been a wild hour.
We have a consistent viewing audience, and they must like it because we've been doing it for goddamn 15 episodes.
You'd think.
And now 16. And with that, from Heck Media, I'm Brendan.
And I'm Mitchell.
And we'll see you in a month.
Bye, guys.
Bye.